Welcome to the Stack of Stats podcast. Pam Maldonado, Kelly Stewart, aka Kelly in Vegas, and we're here to bring you our 5 against the spread NFL contest picks for Week 15. This week's theme is who fucking knows. There's COVID. It is running rampant. It is tearing teams apart. Teams are getting games are getting postponed. They're getting rescheduled. Everyone's on the COVID list. Oh, man, Kelly, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
Just try to sift through this shit, Pam, because that's all that we can do. Look, I was just texting with my fantasy football partners. We've got 5 guys questionable. 1 guy, Tyler Lockett, is out with COVID unless he tests negative today. Everything is on fire around me right now in terms of the NFL. And I'm going to keep my personal card pretty light this weekend. Oh, yeah. But I do think that we can kind of sift through this and find 5 that we agree on here. Unfortunately, with the overreactions and the stale lines in the contest, it makes it a little difficult. So we're going to see.
Well, we will see. Time is running out. I'm still trying to chase that 5-0. I don't know why I wanted so bad, but
yeah, I can't believe we don't have a 5-0. I'm like actually really disappointed in us right now. 5-0 is very attainable.
We have come close a couple of times. I think last week could have legitimately been another 5-0 opportunity. It slipped through our hands, but we were so close. Where time's running out, but we can still get it. What do you think about the board other than minus COVID? What do you think about the board?
I think it's really ugly. I think this is a big week where the bookmakers took a bath, right? Every favorite but one, almost every over hit. And then it happened again last night on Thursday. Look, I think that they've really juiced some of these favorites up in it. We can find some value here. Again, though, we got to kind of be careful not to overreact to too many people being out or backup quarterbacks and their drop-offs. So I've got a few ideas here, and I think that it starts all with the Saints. They're my best bet this week. I gave them out on Wednesday, and I went with the Saints because I love stepping in front of Tom Brady in primetime, 1-8 in his last 9 primetime games. We all know this. It's past his bedtime. The guy is like a health nut. He goes to bed at 8 p.m. This game is an 8:20 Eastern start. I actually took the Saints the last time these two played in New Orleans. Saints got the win. I don't think that the Saints are going to win this game, right? But I do think Trevor Siemian was able to do what he does best and not make too many mistakes. We saw that start to happen. And what did they do? They put in Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill does what Taysom Hill does. Him and Alvin Kamara should be able to run all over this defense. And this is a defense that I think got a lot of hype, especially from last year in the Super Bowl. But this Bucs team's given up over 25 points in their last 3 games. Not to mention, I mentioned how bad my fantasy team was doing. That's also because I have Leonard Fournette, and he is now questionable for this weekend. So their guy that's hit 100 yards rushing or more is a potential no-go. So look, Tampa Bay's defense is going to have to play a lot better if they want to cover this double-digit number. I also lean towards the under here, which makes me like the points at a premium even more. I know you're on the other side, but this is my best bet, so you're stuck with it.
I agree. Well, just a reminder of what it is that we are doing. We are putting together 5 against the spread picks for the NFL. Automatically in is Kelly's best bet. She is now 10-4 on the season. And then we reverted back to what we were doing, which was automatically in my best bet, which is 9-5 on the season. And then together we come up with the other 3. I'm not going to argue against this. I'm not saying that I love the Bucs. I think that backdoor opportunity is definitely here. So I don't hate this pick. And you're talking about why the running backs that they are, maybe this isn't as strong of a defense as they used to be. They're number 1 rushing defense. Yes, but they are still giving up a lot of yardage. Well, if you look into it a little bit further, you do a little bit of a deep dive, you're going to find out that these running backs are actually accumulating yardage, and these teams are accumulating points in the 4th quarter. Literally garbage time points.
Garbage time.
Because the Bucs, they are forcing you, all right, we're going to protect the pass. We already have this comfortable lead. We're going to protect the pass. We don't want you to come back into it. We're begging you to run. And well, that's what's happening. Their teams are running and then they're getting off all over the place. Now the Bucs, do you think that the Saints, do you trust Taysom Hill? If they do get into play from, this is just, it's automatically in, but I just want to discuss it further, is we saw it last week. If Taylor Heineke got in a play from behind situation, is he able to play catch up? And do you think that Taysom Hill has that ability? Because we have seen him. He only has 2 passing touchdowns and 5 thrown interceptions. And now you're going up against the Bucs, who lead in sacks and turnovers per game. So maybe I'm not going to touch this. I love your best bet. I trust you. I wholeheartedly do. But what about that scenario? If Taysom Hill, rely on him.
Look, if they get down double digits early, yeah, that's obviously very concerning here, right? They go down, 14-0 in the first quarter. That's going to be all she wrote, because you're right. This isn't a play from behind, but this is a Saints defense. And that's actually why I bet the Saints plus 5.5 the last time these two played, plus some on the money line, is because that Saints defense and what they're able to do. I do believe that's what the scenario is going to be here. They aren't going to have to come play from behind. But you're right. If they do, no, I don't trust Taysom. Look, he's going to dink and dunk down the field. He's going to do those short passes to Alvin Kamara. I am really sad that Sean Payton isn't going to be coaching this game.
I was just going to bring that
up.
We know
how great he has been as an underdog. But I do think that with the rest of his staff intact, they're going to be just fine. And this is going to be more of a defensive minded game from the Saints as well, which is why I also lean towards the under here.
And I do, just because I am wanting to provide information to everybody. You're talking about the Saints defense, and my worry is that, yep, absolutely. The reason why Tom Brady doesn't do so well against the Saints is because they do have a solid pass rush. They're one of the best defensive front sevens, except the exact same team that they had in that first meet. All of the defensive ends, the linebackers, the defensive tackles, all of them are either questionable or out. Literally, all of them are questionable or out. Marcus Davenport, he's questionable as of right now. He's the leading pass rusher. The second leading pass rusher in Tano, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, Pasagnon, how I butchered that. He's on IR. He's second in pass rush. The third best, Cameron Jordan, he is the first one player up. And then, so you're missing your top 3 tackles, your top 3 pass rushing teams. So potentially Brady's not going to have the same type of quarterback pressure that he faced in the first matchup. That's my one worry about this game. That's literally it. Other than that, the backdoor opportunity, 100% there, especially if the Bucs in the fourth quarter tend to ease up as compared to last year when they were like holding steady to, no, we're not going to let you score. They were the number 1 team in the fourth quarter for limiting points, and now they're like literally dead last. That's where all of the fourth quarter points are being generated from. My best bet is going to be 49ers. We're talking about these big favorites and trying to like avoid some of these big favorites, except this is like the only big favorite that I like, and it's 49ers minus 9.5 at the Falcons. The Falcons, like Matt Ryan, he's good against bad teams. The Falcons are good against bad teams, but they are so bad against teams that are decent, good, or great. And I mean, last week against the 49ers, they were up 20-6 against Cincinnati. Joe Burrow in 2 drives got Cincinnati downfield in 6 plays and in 7 plays. Do you think that Matt Ryan could produce the same type of quality if he found himself in a similar situation? I definitely don't think so, because it's Matt Ryan. But, the Falcons, they beat the Panthers, the Jags, and the Jets, and they lost by double digits to the Bucs, the Patriots, the Cowboys, and the Eagles. Which bracket of team would you put San Francisco in? With the Panthers, the Jags, and the Jets? Or is 49ers more so comparable to the Bucs, the Patriots, Cowboys, and Eagles?
Listen, I totally get it. This is San Francisco team is starting to come into form, but their defense after last week, like what is going on? Like that's like almost unexcusable. I didn't have any skin in the game. I had a lot of friends. I told that I liked the Niners and the line moved. And I said, I just don't want to deal with it. I was so frustrated just flipping back and forth between the games going, what is happening? So if they're going to cover this 9.5, that defense has got to do something to not let that back door be open, because that is is my fear here, right? This is a San Francisco team that in Santa Clara has been so bad with Shanahan,
right?
So bad.
Absolutely.
They just don't win games at home, let alone cover. And we're starting to see that regression happen. But look, this is tough for me. I do think it's a lay it, don't play it with San Francisco. I don't want to bet Atlanta here. This is not an Atlanta team, like you said, that plays well against upper echelon competition. They play great against crappy teams. And that's why, we discussed Atlanta last week. So I'm with you here on San Francisco. 9.5 definitely is a little steep, but it's gotten bet up from just a little over a touchdown for a reason.
I think that game at home in week 12 against Minnesota, where the 49ers won 34-26, that gives me the sliver of hope that yes, they actually can do well at home against good teams, because that wasn't the only home game that they won and covered in, but it was also against the Rams where they won 31-10 back in week 10. So that's back-to-back good home games. I have hope that they're turning that around, that home record, which is definitely not good. We got 2 games. I don't know what the fuck to do with the rest. We got COVID running rampant all over the place. At first I was thinking maybe that we should fade the teams that do have these big COVID lists, and one of them would be Washington football team, because they no longer have Taylor Heineke, Kyle Allen, and now you're starting a third string quarterback, Garrett Gilbert, who was actually just signed today. And so now you're going to be expected to play in 2 days on Sunday. However, just before this podcast, a couple of updates. Washington and Eagles, that moved to a Tuesday game. So now is there value on taking some of these dogs, because it was expected to have all of these players out, and now potentially these players are going to be back because it's on a different day. And the Seahawks and Rams, that's also another one. The COVID list for the Rams is also super long. You have linebacker Von Miller, wide receiver Odell Beckham, and then defensive back Jalen Ramsey. That game also moved to Tuesday. Raiders, Browns, Jadeveon Clowney for the Browns, no Baker Mayfield, no Case Keenum, and instead you get Nick Mullins and Kareem Hunt. He's out, but not from COVID, from injury. But you still do have Nick Chubb. That game got postponed to Monday. So now is there value on these dogs? Because initially all these players weren't supposed to be there, but now come Tuesday and Monday, they maybe are.
It's really tough, Pam, because I played a lot of stale lines, right? We've spoken about this before. I'm in a ton of different contests. Office Football Pool puts their lines up on Monday. So I got like 5.5 plus 5.5 with the Raiders, right? For Saturday. And, I only had to lay 2.5 with the Eagles. So like those cherry picking of the bad lines is almost like a must put in. And now you're asking me on the flip side of, hey, look, because things are being moved and we have potential. For example,
Potential.
you brought up the moving of the games. Like I had just texted my fantasy football team before we started, please, for the love of God, move Seattle and LA so that we can have Tyler Lockett play. And that doesn't mean he's going to play, but he has a much higher chance of playing on Tuesday than he does on Sunday. And so those type of things you do have to take into consideration. Just because they move it doesn't mean that more guys will be able to go, but the assumption is there that yes, I think that there are some stale lines that you could take advantage of here and some overreactions to it. The problem is I don't want to overthink it either. And then it still ends up as a bust because those guys are still not a go.
Well, like Washington, for example, this line opened -4 because of initial COVID news, moved to 7. Because of more COVID news, it moved to 9. So if anything was more of value compared to the other games, Washington more so would be the most, because this line initially, I think, opened to 3.5.
Yeah,
3.5, 4.
I said 2.5, but I might have gotten 3.5 in my pool, but I still couldn't believe it. I was like, I have to play it because of how much the line is moved, Let me see, what did I get? Yeah, I got 5.5 with them. And then with the Eagles, it's just really crazy to see things. 4.5 with the Eagles. You were correct. Sorry about that.
And the contest line is now 9. Like, that's a fuck ton of value, potentially getting a majority of their players back come Tuesday. That's a big difference. That's a lot of days from now until then. Now it also changes your perspective, because like I think I was already leaning to the Eagles beforehand. Because I just think like this defense is going to give Washington a lot of trouble, and Taylor Heineke, and we saw what a good defense can do from playing Dallas. They don't apply as much quarterback pressure, so that's going to be the big difference. It's just purely like line value for now, a game that's been pushed to Tuesday.
And I kind of wonder if we have to play on that line value this week, because it's not like there's a bunch of other games that we love. You know what I mean? Right. So do we just blindly pick line value? I mean, I feel like that's kind of the strategy in some of these contests.
I mean, at this point, would it hurt? Do we have anything to lose?
No,
by doing that? Exactly. So if we're going to do I think just purely based off of like significantly how much this line has moved from the initial opening line of minimum, I think it was 3.5, 4 to now 9, and now getting this game pushed to a Tuesday. Automatically in.
I think it has to be. Unfortunately, I know it looks really scary and it is not going to be fun. But I think you're right. I think it has to just basically be it. I think you have to play on it.
Do we even know the rules for the contest to where if it
doesn't go Tuesday, we get a big fat 0.
I get a 0.
I know that.
Okay. So then do you want to risk that? These are the things of a contest.
Yeah. And I mean, look, this is the honest God truth would be if this game, regardless, we probably wouldn't be backing it with our hard dollars. So I think we can circle it, table it, and see if there's anything else that we can get to as far as overreactions go, if you'd like to do that.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's talk about one game that you and I both agreed on. And honestly, I'm kind of confused as to why I even had this in the first place. And it was the Ravens plus 5.5 at home to the Packers. The reason why I liked the Ravens was not because I think that this is some like fantastic matchup and the Ravens are going to excel here. To me, it was just like a fishy as fuck line. You have no Lamar Jackson, a depleted as fuck team from injuries. Rodgers just wrecked the Bears last week, and the line's 5.5.
Yeah, I asked your co-host Ariel Epstein this the other night. I said, Ariel, how many points is Huntley from Jackson? And she goes, well, it just really depends. I think Huntley might be an upgrade from an injured Jackson. And that's just from my personal perspective, but he's definitely not a 3-point drop-off. In real life, in the contest, it's 5.5. In real life, if this hits 7, Pam, I'm going to hammer the Ravens.
I think so. I would too. Yeah.
Huge overreaction.
So in the last 3 games for Rodgers, he is playing some fantastic football right now. He has thrown for 385, 307, and 341 yards, 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And the Ravens last week, you're talking about Tyler Huntley. The Ravens were actually down 24-3 against the Browns, and they ended up losing the Ravens 24-22. However, 2 touchdowns from Huntley came in the fourth quarter. The good thing about it was the Browns were shut out in the second half. Now, was that because the Browns didn't really care as much because they had such a significant lead, or did the Ravens defense step up? That's something that I don't have the answer to.
I personally do think it was the Ravens defense, and that is why I do like the Ravens here at home against the Packers. I'm looking right now, and I don't see this line out there anywhere. I'm guessing it's because they're waiting to see basically after Friday practice, and that's fine. I don't mind the bookmakers taking it off the board, but I can tell you this absolutely right now, that Baltimore opening as a 2-point home dog with Jackson, getting moved 3.5 points for Huntley is probably correct. But after that, we're seeing way too much of an overreaction. So in real life, I'm definitely going to bet this one if there is a 7 available. At 5.5, I do still lean Huntley and the Ravens. And look, if you get 5.5, right? Let's just say this hypothetically, we get a tweet comes out tomorrow morning, Lamar Jackson's a go, or even Sunday morning, Lamar Jackson's a go. We've got 3.5 points of line value right there in itself. And I think it might be worth the risk to take because I do like it at 5.5. So worst case, we get Huntley in the 5.5. Best case, Lamar plays and maybe can get them the W. Okay.
Well, then we want to lock it in. That will give us our third.
I like the Ravens a lot this week in that spot.
And it was the only game that you and I agreed on.
So we automatically agreed with you on the Niners. There was a couple. We got to look back through our texts.
All right. So then there's another game where injury comes into concern. So the Colts -2 is what the contest line is at home against the Patriots. The Patriots don't have running back Damian Harris. He is such a key part of this offense now, has become such a key part of this offense. And I do know that I was initially on the Patriots, but not having Damian Harris really changes my perspective on things because how well can this defense hold for 4 quarters against Jonathan Taylor?
My concern isn't Jonathan Taylor. And by all means, Frank Reich should absolutely run the ball all day long. My concern here is Carson Wentz in the red zone. Who's one of the best red zone defenses?
The Patriots.
And that is why I have a love-hate with Carson Wentz. I'm with you here. I think that the Patriots look so square. I teased them earlier in the week and I felt so dirty about it. I'm like, surely they can keep it within a touchdown here. And that was just a pure Wong teaser that I bet every single week, right? That's just what I do. Right. And there's no handicap to it, low total, and give me the 8.5. So that's what I did. But looking at it, I'm with you. I think that the Colts look like the right side here. Laying 2. Now you're adding some COVID concerns, some injury concerns, swirling around with the Patriots. And I think we're going to get some more news over the next couple of hours, depending on how things go. I think the Colts is the right side. I really do. My only concern is I've had the Colts in several games this year. I got really lucky to cash that ticket against the Rams. But that is a Colts
You're so
team.
stressful.
It was so stressful. And, I also have the Colts to win that division. So I really was high on them to start the year. Carson Wentz stays healthy and is able. And if they don't try to ask him to do anything in the red zone, I think we'll be fine. If they run the ball with Jonathan Taylor, keep the dink and dunks under control with Carson Wentz, I think the Colts is the right side here.
My best bet for this game was the under, and I initially was leaning to the Patriots, but as I said, without Damian Harris, it really changes things. But you're talking about the turnovers and Carson Wentz, and that is also a concern, is because the Colts and the Patriots, they're both first and second in percentage of drives with a forced turnover. So that kind of also benefits the Colts, because if you don't have if you don't have Damian Harris on the field, well, then now you're going to see Mac Jones, who I have a ticket for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's been fantastic. But you are still going up against a defense who is right up there with you, comparable to forcing turnovers, and you don't have your best player on the field. That's going to be putting a lot of pressure on Mac Jones himself. So this could be, the line is perfect. It should be 2.5. It should be 2. It should be close. It's going to come down to like a field goal game. It's just, hopefully you're on the right side of it. If you want to put in Colts, I definitely don't mind that. Another game that I wanted to talk about was, why am I doing this? The Jets against the Dolphins. God. I know. Okay, but look at it. Literally, the Jets and the Dolphins are the exact same team. They are both 22nd, 29th in total offense. They're both 15th and 16th in passing. Their pass defense is both atrocious, 27th and 28th. Literally, statistically, they are right freaking there. Right there. And then the Dolphins, they had some of their COVID concerns themselves. And when a player is on COVID, you can't practice. So some of these players, maybe, I don't know how it's going to affect them. I'm not going to try to guess. Some of those players are coming back. You have Myles Gaskin, he's back into the lineup. But that's a lot of points for literally the exact same team. It's just.
So this is my problem with the Jets. Do you think the Jets can win this game? Because that's the only time they ever cover. If they can win the game outright, they get the cover. Otherwise, they get blown out of the field, and they drive me absolutely, utterly insane.
I have such a distaste for Zach Wilson that it's like I can't ever look at it entirely objectively, because I'm like, God, he's so bad.
He's so bad. And they're so much worse on the road. At least winning at home is one thing. This is a Miami team that I think under zero circumstances deserves to be a 9.5 point favorite. Don't get me wrong. I literally do. But Pam, if this game ended 17-3, would it surprise you?
No.
They are just not good football teams. My problem is I'm absolutely not touching this Dolphins game. Like on the Dolphins side, I can promise you that with that, there's just no way. But the Jets, I'd actually rather take Washington football team with the chance that they don't even play Tuesday and get the 0 before I want to take the Jets.
I will say, yes, the Jets can win this game, because as bad as I think Zach Wilson has been, he has not thrown an interception in his last 2 or 3 games. So something is improving. It may be a slow improvement, but he doesn't have the mechanics. He doesn't have the arm. He doesn't have the quarterback decision. He can't read the defense. Okay, fine. You know what? I just talked myself out of it. I do think that the Jets is the right side, because these teams are literally the same team. But would I want to have that? Okay, no. All right. Okay, so then scratch that. Colts could be an option. Raiders, then we want to kind of leave off because of COVID. Seahawks maybe want to leave off because of COVID. Rams should be improving by then. Well, then what do you think about the Titans and Steelers? The line did open 2. for the Titans, and now for the contest and live line, it is a pick 'em. Do you
I
not
honestly,
see?
go ahead. Sorry.
Do you not see that the Titans, as bad as they've been, I know that this offense is definitely not the same without Derrick Henry, but what gives me hope for this team is that one, we saw just how bad this Steelers defense is against the run. Terrible.
Well, they're really bad on the road. That's the problem. Their defense is terrible on the road. Their defense is better at home. I will say that much.
That is true. Deontay Foreman, though, Ryan Tannehill, and I mean, these are two. I mean, he's a running back himself too at times. This could be a spot for them to really exploit the Steelers' run defense. And we haven't really seen Deontay Foreman like excel at all, really. He's kind of just like filling in the space. But what gives me hope about this team is that Derrick Henry should be coming back by like week 16, week 17, week 18. They're projecting him to be here ready for the playoffs. This team is going to end up in the playoffs. Like, so they have that motivation factor. And I hate using motivation. I'm not a motivation person better at all. But knowing that your best offensive asset is returning really fucking soon, doesn't that light a fire under your ass to keep things rolling against a team that is just like god awful right now?
I mean, listen, in theory, you mentioned that Tannehill struggled since Henry's been out. But my question is can this defense carry them over the finish line on the road? I made this game a pick 'em. So at 2.5, I teased the shit out of Pittsburgh early in the week. I said, you want to give me 8.5 at home with Mike Tomlin all day long. That doesn't mean I like Pittsburgh at a pick 'em though. And so this one is kind of, I think for me at this point, like a no play. Okay. You could talk me into taking the Titans because I don't have a huge opinion one way or another at a pick 'em, right? Like, so for me, I don't love the side. I'm not going to be getting involved. But I see exactly what you're saying here, where the Titans really do have a lot more to play for than the Steelers do.
Okay, so then we are still running out of options. We're about then?
But I knew this was going to be one of those weeks.
No, this week is terrible. This is one of the most impossible weeks. Like, if you are betting these games,
this is why we're going to go 5-0 this week, Pam, because that's what happens.
Keep it light. What do you think then about the Cowboys against the Jets? Because I mean, not the Jets, the Giants. The Giants, pretty freaking atrocious. This could be, I know that it is a division game and these games always tend to be closer. However, we did just see what a Giants defense, how it can hold up against a really good offense against playing the Chargers, and it didn't hold up very well at all. They ended up losing 37-21 to the Chargers. And I think it's because the Chargers, they kind of like, at some point, they kind of stopped trying. That was kind of like a half-assed effort, and they were still able to make it downfield pretty comfortably.
So Ralph tweeted about this game. Okay. I'm on the under. And Ralph tweeted about this game because we did the show on Wednesday.
Mike Glennon.
Division team as an away favorite over 8 or more points plays the under. But the away favorite is also almost 64% against the spread. I'll take Dallas here. It's Dallas or pass regardless. I wasn't going to sit here and make a case for the Giants. This is a Giants team. Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do? I'm okay with the Cowboys. I'll put the Cowboys in it for sure.
The reason why I do like the Cowboys is because they have been so injury ridden as of late. And they did in the last game get Amari Cooper back. They had CD Lamb back. And that was just like their first game where their offense is finally collectively all on the field. And they haven't had that in a few games. And then one of the biggest difference is the quarterback pressure. I've been noticing that maybe people are saying that Dak is kind of looking like he's in a bit of a slump. Well, the reason for that is because they are like blitzing as like a super high rate. The Giants, they don't really have any type of quarterback pressure whatsoever. I think this could be an offense. This could be the bounce back spot for the Cowboys in a, finally, I have all of my offense back on the team. Let's roll. The Giants. If they get it, is this defense going to be able to hold? And if they do, always ask yourself, if they get in a play from behind situation, is Mike Glennon going to save the day? He had a 5.3 passing average last week, 1 interception. He was sacked twice. That's the question.
It was bad. Last week. I'm okay with the Cowboys. I would prefer them over the Titans just because, like I said, I don't really feel like there's a ton of value there. Ralph's little stat kind of gives me that extra little go ahead. Like I said, I'm all over the under in that one. I could easily see it being 31-10 Cowboys, no sweat to cover the double digits here.
Okay, this initially wasn't a play that I was like super riding ho about, but I mean, when you got nothing else.
I think it's either way, these are coin flips, right?
Okay.
When you're not laying juice in a contest, that's really what it is. So we try to sift through and find some edges here. And in a week like this, there's just not a lot of edges. So look, I don't like the Giants. I wasn't going to get involved with the Cowboys because I had already taken the under, but makes it really easy just to look at it and say, okay, fine. The Cowboys as double-digit favorites. They've just been crushing. And why not keep it rolling here?
What do you think about the Broncos and the Bengals?
Okay, so here's the Broncos now as a favorite. A big favorite against the Lions makes sense. A big favorite against this Bengals team. Look, Joe Burrow is really good when there's not a pass rush. When there's a pass rush, he doesn't do very well. And this Broncos pass rush has been really great. This line is currently up to 3 across the board. I think at 2.5 in the contest is a pretty significant value. In my opinion, I hate to use the Broncos most of the time because I'm a Broncos fan, so it can get really frustrating for me. But I did tease the Bengals purely, again, Wong teaser, low total on Monday. So I do think that this is a touchdown type game. And that's my one concern here is all of a sudden, are the Broncos coming into midseason form, or are we seeing a little bit of bias here due to the recent performance?
Okay. How about, I was actually thinking that was like, I was actually confused that when I saw this line, I was like, oh, this should be Bengals. But then the money came in on the Broncos. And then I was like, what am I missing?
And I feel the same way as a Broncos fan. It's what am I missing here? But I do think this Broncos defense is pretty good. Teddy Bridgewater is doing what he's being asked to do, and that is to limit his mistakes and play within his little bubble. I think it looks like a freaking field goal game. I said that's why I had the Bengals in a teaser, because I think they keep it within a touchdown. But this game could land on a field goal in the contest. We get the cover, great. But in real life, I'm not touching this line.
So then, okay, tell me this is not just like overthink it type of situation. The Cardinals against the Lions. The Lions are going to be without their tight end in Hawkinson, and he's a big asset. They already don't have that many weapons. You eliminate one, then what's going to happen? And the Cardinals, they did just ended up losing last week's game against the Rams. This could be like a huge, like, all right, rejuvenate themselves type of energy type of game.
If this was at Arizona, I'd be all over Arizona. I hate the fact that it's in Detroit. I have been to Ford Field enough times to know that the back door is always open in the fourth quarter. And especially when we're looking at this kind of number. And I just want to double check. Arizona plays who next week? The Indianapolis Colts on Christmas. I don't think this is a game they care about, right? Detroit's been competitive several times this year. And their defense has really been able to stifle their opponents at times. This is a Cardinals team that I really don't know if they have that bounce back mentality. Like, oh, we're going to go in and beat up on the lowly Lions. I'm not sure if that's it or not. But, getting the crap beat out of them by the Rams, tough game Monday night. I'm like 50-50. I think this is like a real coin flip type game. We're laying 12.5 in the contest. Yes, just wanted to double check that. 12.5 in the contest. We're starting to see 13s pop up. I don't think it's anything insignificant. I'm not touching the Lions here. That's just my only concern with this Lions team is, for lack of better words, they will fuck around and win a game.
So we're not loving anything though. One last game. We're running out. One last game. Call me crazy. The Panthers against the Bills. And the reason for this is because we saw that the Bills, they are just as vulnerable as I expected. Their run defense, their pass defense, they're just vulnerable because of the easy ass schedule that they have faced. And I know that Carolina is terrible. And I know I have been such a opponent of Cam Newton coming back and I'm back and being all flashy. He's still terrible. However, can't they just like run the freaking ball?
So how healthy do we think Josh Allen is?
I mean, that's purely subjective because we have no freaking clue. He
I'm
practiced.
looking right now. I want to get some actual real information on how banged up he is. I don't think he's that healthy. And yet we see this line just only going in one direction, right? We're seeing 12 start to pop up here. The whole world's going to be on Buffalo, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Who wants to take Cam Newton on the road? I don't. But
yeah,
Carolina, if Cam does not turn the ball over, I think that they will have a chance to cover this game. This is
he has a
Buffalo's
foot injury. He's not going to be as mobile for Josh Allen. If you have a foot injury, he's not going to be getting all those rushing yards that we're used to seeing him get. And Panthers, they are a top 10 pass rush still. I mean, the stats are still there. On paper, the stats are still there. They are still a top 10 pass rush. They are still number 1 in passing defense. They are vulnerable against the run, but we do know that the Bills, they don't really like to run the ball because they always have Josh Allen who's running the ball himself. Well, if you have an injured foot, how mobile are you actually going to be?
I'm with you. It makes sense. I think that this is definitely one of those trappy type lines. Buffalo's
27 minutes ago.
Spread at home too. Just terrible.
27 minutes ago, Josh Allen is officially on the Bills injury report and has been given no injury status for Sunday's game. He is expected to start with a sprained foot.
Well, okay.
Because this line is so high, your quarterback is not mobile, and you have a very vulnerable run defense against a team who likes to do nothing but run, against a team that also still has a pass rush and is still a good secondary. I mean, they can show up. They are still good in turnovers. Panthers definitely are still a top 10 team in forcing turnovers. Nobody's going to want it.
No, and sometimes those are the games that you have to bet. I mean, I swear every single week my buddy Joe's in another Vegas contest, and every single week he has the 5 ugliest teams every single week, and he goes like 4-1. I'm like, God, you got way bigger balls than me, because that is just like, how do you bet the Giants, the Giants,
ugliest teams,
the Jets, the Bears, like all? And last week he got crushed. I think he went 0-5, but like, obviously so. But those are the type of weeks that, like, you know, week 2 he went 5-0 because it's just so disgusting. But look, I'm okay. Honestly, at this point, I'm okay with football team. I'm okay with Panthers.
I think I would feel okay with Panthers. Okay. Right now we have Saints plus 11. We have the Saints, the 49ers, the Cowboys, and the Ravens. Is that correct?
Yes.
We agree on the Cowboys. So then would you feel more comfortable? I think the Panthers, because A, nobody's going to have it. You said B, like the line is still ticking up to the Bills as if everybody already has tomorrow's paper. And this is just like, I think Washington, I mean, I think either or. Would you maybe want to do what? I think it's hard for me to do Washington because I initially had the Eagles before all of this stuff.
When it opened at 2.5 offshore, how could you not? I have the Eagles, and I literally just went back and double checked to make sure that I played the Eagles in every single one of my other pools, because you just have the value there. I'm with you. I think the Panthers, I'm going to go ahead and say there's going to be 2 lopsided games this week, and that's going to be one of the most lopsided games. The whole world is going to be on the Bills.
Like,
we'll see how
80% plus. 80%,
I
90 plus.
I'm going to go ahead and beg to say 94.5% plus. I'm telling you, I love to get those texts from those bookmakers on Sunday morning, except for last week. Last week, I got that text and I was like, I got completely obliterated for obvious reasons. But I love to get that, hey, this is what we need, because those type of like 1 or 2 games always seem to go 2-0. And I think that this will be the game that I get that text from my good friend John Murray that's like, oh, we need the Panthers, you know, so bad this morning, where in fact they may be able to keep it close here.
I wouldn't be surprised if this ended up being like a 3-point game. And I mean, we did see what happened when the Bills weren't exactly healthy against the Jags. They lost outright.
Yes, they did.
So this isn't a spot. Okay, then. Okay. Well, then I think that's our 5. How comfortable do you feel then with our final card being Saints plus 11 against the Bucks, 49ers minus 9.5 at home to the Falcons, Panthers plus 10.5 to the Bills, Cowboys minus 10.5 to the Giants, and the Ravens plus 5.5 at home to the Packers.
I like it. I like it.
Man, that Ravens went into fishy line.
It's
Okay,
scary.
well,
It's really
then
scary. But I have faith in Huntley. I actually would take him over unhealthy Lamar Jackson.
yeah, you're exactly right. And I think I like our plan of avoiding the COVID teams just because we don't know if how much better or even worse this can get by Tuesday. And if the game ends up getting canceled, well, then we end up with the 0 instead of taking an opportunity on another game. So I do like that strategy. If you are going to bet these games, keep it light or don't even bet at all. Or you know what?
Yeah.
In-game situation, live betting is your friend. And this is going to be where you find out. We saw it last year when the Broncos ended up playing. What was it? It was like a 4th string quarterback.
Oh my
guy
God.
who had never had.
And here's me going, don't overreact. Nobody's 15-point drop off, and they got blown out.
And there were so many live betting situations where you can be like, okay, this is definitely not going to happen for the Broncos. There's no way that they have this. You could have taken the under for the full game. You could have taken the team total under. You could have taken the spread for the opposing team. Live betting is your friend. Let that be the case this week if you are wagering dollars on a COVID situation in the NFL. But those are going to be our 5 against the spread picks for an NFL contest for week 15 of the NFL. Just to reiterate, Saints plus 11 at the Bucks, 49ers minus 9.5 at home to the Falcons, Panthers plus 10.5 to the Bills, Cowboys minus 10.5 to the Giants, and the Ravens plus 5.5 at home to the Packers. That's it. 5-0, the ugliest card. That's what's going to get us the 5-0. I get it.
We got
Feel
it.
it.
Right? That's exactly what's going to happen. I know it right now. I'm dying laughing because I'm looking at this going, yeah, this is ugly. And this is the week
ugly.
we go 5-0.
Just close your eyes. Do make sure to follow Kelly on Twitter at KellyInVegas. You can follow me on Twitter at Pamela M35. And that does it for another episode of Stack Stats.